There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise finally fades away. The meetings end. The celebrations become memories. The applause grows distant. And all that remains is you, alone with your thoughts. For a long time, I believed success was the answer to everything. I believed that if I worked harder than everyone else, dreamed bigger than everyone else, and refused to quit when everyone else walked away, I would eventually reach a place where nothing could shake me. That belief became my identity. It pushed me through impossible deadlines, impossible risks, and impossible expectations. People often ask what success feels like. They imagine it's a permanent feeling of victory. It isn't. Success is strange. The moment you reach one mountain, another appears in the distance. Every finish line quietly becomes another starting point. At first, I loved that feeling. It meant there was always another challenge to solve, another impossible idea waiting to become reality. But after years of chasing the next achievement, I began noticing something I couldn't ignore. The excitement always faded faster than I expected. Not because the achievements weren't meaningful, but because achievement was never meant to replace purpose. For years, I confused movement with meaning. I thought staying busy meant staying fulfilled. I thought building bigger things would automatically build a better life. I was wrong. Life has a way of teaching lessons that no book, no mentor, and no amount of intelligence can prepare you for. Some lessons arrive quietly. They don't announce themselves. They don't ask permission. They simply appear one ordinary day and slowly begin changing the way you see everything. I've learned that the most powerful moments rarely happen in front of cameras. They happen in silence. In the conversations nobody hears. In the doubts nobody sees. In the decisions that only your own heart will ever understand. People admire confidence. They celebrate certainty. But certainty is often an illusion. Behind every confident decision is usually someone choosing courage over fear. The fear never disappears. You simply stop allowing it to make your decisions. When I was younger, I believed control was everything. Control over time. Control over emotions. Control over outcomes. If something couldn't be measured, I assumed it couldn't be mastered. But life doesn't work that way. People don't work that way. Some of the most important things you'll ever experience refuse to follow logic. You cannot calculate trust. You cannot predict love. You cannot engineer genuine connection. You can only experience it. And once you do, you are never exactly the same again. The world teaches us how to build careers. Very few people teach us how to build a meaningful life. Those are completely different skills. One earns admiration. The other earns peace. It took me years to understand that difference. For a long time, I believed happiness existed somewhere in the future. After the next project, after the next success, after the next breakthrough. But happiness has a strange habit of moving every time you think you've reached it. Because happiness isn't a destination. It's something you either notice today or spend your entire life chasing tomorrow. I've met brilliant people. People capable of changing industries, changing technology, changing history, and yet many of them quietly carried battles no one ever noticed. That taught me something important. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is continuing anyway. It's waking up when motivation disappears. It's believing in yourself when evidence says you shouldn't. It's choosing hope when doubt seems more reasonable. That kind of strength doesn't make headlines, but it changes lives. As I've grown older, I've stopped asking myself how to become more successful. Instead, I've started asking different questions. Am I becoming someone I respect? Am I spending time on what truly matters? Am I building a future that I'll actually want to live in? Those questions are harder because they don't have easy answers. Technology evolves every year. Businesses grow, markets change, but the human heart has always searched for the same things: purpose, belonging, connection, hope. Those things cannot be downloaded. They cannot be purchased. They cannot be automated. They must be lived. One lesson changed everything for me. The people who leave the greatest impact on your life rarely arrive with dramatic entrances. Sometimes they simply appear. One conversation, one unexpected moment, one ordinary day that quietly becomes unforgettable. At first, you don't notice anything different. Then you realize they've begun changing the way you think. Not because they tried to, but because their presence reminds you of a version of yourself you almost forgot existed. That realization can be uncomfortable, especially for someone who likes certainty, because meaningful relationships cannot be controlled. They cannot be optimized. They require vulnerability, and vulnerability is uncomfortable. Not because it makes us weak, but because it makes us real. I used to believe success meant never showing uncertainty. Now I believe the opposite. Real confidence is admitting you don't know everything. Real courage is telling the truth even when it's difficult. Real strength is allowing yourself to care despite knowing you could be disappointed. Life will always offer reasons to stay guarded, to stay comfortable, to stay silent, but comfort has never created extraordinary lives. Every meaningful achievement begins with uncertainty. Every meaningful relationship begins with honesty. Every meaningful future begins with one decision to move forward despite fear. I've made countless decisions based on logic. Some were successful, some failed completely, but the decisions I remember most weren't logical at all. They were human. They were the moments I chose belief over certainty, hope over fear, faith over guarantees. Because guarantees don't exist. Not in business, not in life, not in love. The only thing we truly control is whether we choose to move forward anyway. If there's one lesson I wish I had understood earlier, it's this. Don't wait for perfect timing. Perfect timing rarely arrives. Tell people they matter while they can still hear it. Chase dreams while you still have the energy to build them. Take the risk before fear convinces you that safety is the better option. Because one day you'll realize the greatest regrets are rarely the things you attempted. They're the opportunities you quietly abandoned because you were waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Growth happens after the decision, not before it. Maybe that's why the future belongs to people willing to act before certainty appears. Not because they're fearless, but because they've accepted that fear will always come along for the journey. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. Success isn't measured only by what you build. It's measured by who you become while building it. Because companies can disappear, money can disappear, recognition can disappear, but character remains. The way you treated people remains. The courage you showed remains. The honesty you chose remains. When everything else fades away, those are the things that define a life. So if you're listening to this and wondering whether your dream is worth pursuing, it is. If you're wondering whether you should tell someone how much they matter, do it. If you're wondering whether it's too late to become the person you've always wanted to be, it isn't. The future has never belonged to those who waited. It belongs to those willing to take the first step while their hands are still shaking. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more than fear. And perhaps that's the truth success spent years trying to teach me. Not that winning changes your life, but that becoming the right person changes everything. The greatest achievement is not building something the world admires. The greatest achievement is building a life you don't need to escape from. And if you can do that, you'll discover something far more valuable than success. You'll discover peace.